So let's start by diving deeper into core components like text and view. And for this, I'll actually delete this status bar component and also this import. If I save that, this is updated here on those devices and not much change there. So we don't need this right now. I also will delete this text component and save that, so that for now we have a blank screen. And now let's try re-adding the text like this. Hello world between the view, without the surrounding text. If we do that, we notice that we get an error down here. We get an error that text strings must be rendered within a text component, which is actually a quite helpful error message, which tells us in a pretty clear way what's wrong. Now, before we fix this, let's also take a look at those devices, those simulators, and here we also get the same error message. And this is actually something important, which is why I'm showing this. It's different than what you might know from web development. If you would build a web app, and this would be React for the web, and this would maybe be a div instead of a view, then this kind of code would be fine. We could put text inside of a div there. React Native and native platforms, to be precise, are stricter than that. You can't put a text into a view, which is pretty much the equivalent to a div, because it's not meant for that. Instead, views, so the equivalent to divs in the web world, views are meant to generally build boxes and containers that hold other content. A view could hold some text wrapped into a text component. It could also hold a text input or a button or an image or anything like this. But you have to put the content into an element that is able to display it. And the view is only able to hold other components, it's not able to display text. And that is something really important to understand. If you want to display text, for example, you have to use this text component and wrap the text opening and closing tags around your text. And if you do this and save, then this updates and works again. But that's a first important takeaway. Even though we can kind of compare those components to HTML, and even though it looks kind of similar, there are important differences. Now, what you will often do when building React Native apps is you will build more complex user interfaces that don't just have one piece of text inside of them. And what's important to understand then is that those different core components have different roles. The text is a component that's used for, guess what, displaying text. The view is a component that's meant to hold and lay out other components. Now we will learn more about laying things out with help of styling in a couple of minutes, but the idea behind the view component is that you typically have